Yeah, we've had quite a few of them that we've celebrated. This was back in September. One of our deputies, actually Corporal Rip, was called to respond to a suicidal subject out at the Steel Bridge, and we have multiple of these throughout the year. This gal was not from the area. She had gone through some rough times, and her parents had called and said, this is where we think she is. She's been on the internet searching what is the highest bridge in the state of Washington. So she drove all the way here, and when our deputy got out there, he just started engaging her in conversation. She had been drinking to gain the courage, and then he talked her through it. And that CIT training that we had really makes a difference for these guys in their confidence to be able to deal with this type of a situation. In the past, with experience, you learn to talk to people that are in crisis, but the training gives you little tools that really make a big difference. And Corporal Rip was able to talk to her, take the time, and get her the resources that she needed. She was able to step off of the bridge, come back to him on her own volition, get in his patrol car, and he drove her down to the hospital and got her some assistance. So.
Is this a story, too, where he was in plain clothes or?
No, that was
Jeff Rhodes, Sergeant Rhodes.
Sergeant Rhodes, we covered that one. That was a different one, yeah.
We actually, I was up at the academy this week and talking to Bob Graham, one of the training instructors up there, about these circumstances. And actually, Bob asked us if we would forward our circumstances with our people. And like the chief said, that training for some people that have not been through that, are not used to dealing with that, it gives them the confidence. They're very, very good out there in the field, but it gives you a few more tools in the toolbox and maybe another technique to use. And it's paid off for us.
Yeah.
Paid off for other people, actually. Two more things coming up today, and then a safety issue. We have coming up this week, this morning, we're going to swear in a brand new deputy sheriff, a hometown guy that grew up here, and then we have a new chaplain. Would you like to talk about the chaplain real quick?
Absolutely. We've got a gentleman who in the 1970s joined the military after going through West Point. Mm-hmm. He was a West Point graduate, flew helicopters in the late 70s for the Army, and then he got out, became a pastor for 10 years, and then he decided he wanted to go back in and continue to serve. So he went back in as a chaplain, finished his career in the Army as a chaplain. After he finished, he retired, and then they hired him as a chaplain at the Citadel in South Carolina. So for 6 years, he was a chaplain at the Citadel. Now he's in our community in the Hoodsport area. He's retired, and he still wants to serve. So we're super excited to swear him in as a chaplain today. We were down to one chaplain who is often out of the area, and he's out of the North End. So it's nice to have another South End chaplain. It's something in law enforcement and military where society still says it's good to have that third leg, not only the psychologist and the peer support, but also the spiritual guidance. And it's something that when you're dealing with critical incidents, it's really important for us to be able to grab a chaplain when we make a next of kin notification, or if a deputy's dealing with something. So it's going to be a great asset to our agency.
Yeah, you mentioned two things. What are some of the other job descriptions for a chaplain in a sheriff's office?
Well, I think you just talked about it. Like, for me, what kind of got it started when I met Chaplain Albertson years ago was, as a deputy sheriff, I'd have to do the death notifications, which at the time when I was doing, I was really young and didn't have a lot of experience doing that. Just did.
Right.
And Chaplain Albertson, when I met him, started to go out to death notifications with us, and that bringing that background again of somebody in the clergy that has a background in dealing with people in traumatic situations, just fantastic to have them available. And oftentimes our chaplains just come out and ride with deputies at night, you know, and it's just a comforting moment. And a lot of times when chaplains first came on at my other agency, we brought them on. The staff started asking, where's our chaplains at? They love to have chaplains come out. So we're excited about having a new chaplain come on with us.
And there's another really important role that chaplains play. If an officer, for example, is involved in an officer-involved shooting, when we arrive as command staff, they cannot talk to, we cannot let them talk to us about the shooting.
Sure.
Because in the excitement of a shooting, they remember things differently. The stress on the body is just tremendous. So there's 5 people that they can talk to that an attorney can't compel those people to testify against them. What was different things. One of them is a chaplain. And after those type of traumatic events, having somebody that's safe that you can talk to and say, this is what, da-da-da-da-da, it's really an important part of processing that critical incident.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
And this morning we have Deputy Jake Delaney, a Shelton resident, was in Idaho as a law enforcement officer over there, and Ryan coached him in high school.
Yes, I
and
did.
he's coming
Wow.
back to town to be a deputy sheriff with us. And I'll tell you, it is really nice to see as many people as we have on board now that came from this area. You know, they know the families, they know their way around the neighborhoods, they know the background of the community. It is really nice to see this many people coming back on board with us. Do you have anything to add on Jake?
No, it's just really cool. He called me up and said, "Hey, Coach, do you remember me?" You know, he joined the military after graduating from Shelton High School. He and his wife are both from the community. Went into the Army as an MP, and he ended up in Shoshone County, Idaho, as a deputy over there for the last few years. And he called and said, I want to come home. I hear you guys have some openings. And so that's been really exciting for us, because anytime you can get somebody that chooses to come
Sure.
to this community, you're
Sure.
going to get a better product in the end. And
Yeah.
this is where his family is. This is where he wants to put his roots down. So we're excited to have him come
That's
back.
great.
Sergeant
That is great.
Petratus retired from, Shelton guy, and now we have Jake Delaney come in. I don't think if you're from Shelton, you can't retire till you bring in a new recruit
how it
from
works.
Shelton.
One in, one out.
So the last thing I wanted to just toss out there for you over the weekend, I've got a couple more photographs of it. When I tell those people out at the Skokomish Valley Community Church, wow, there's nothing that stops them from making it to worship on Sunday. There was quite a bit of water over the roadway out there, and the entire parking lot was flooded. And I've got a photograph of all the cars in the parking lot with the water rapidly rising. They were in the building.
They went in
So what I want to talk about just for a moment is we're calling for another tough round of weather and
Yeah.
rain. And I continuously got calls over the last couple of weeks about people driving in the water out of the valley, cars getting stalled. Not a good idea. And one person asked me why not. A lot of the modern cars, just as a small information, a lot of modern cars, the air intake is down below now. They're not up above like the old cars, where for better aerodynamics and better air draw, they're down by the axles in the front and down by the front grille and the low areas. And you hit that water, it draws that water right up there and hydrolocks your engine. So it's not a great idea from that perspective. It's not a great idea. That doesn't take much water to float a car over or bump it off the edge of the road, which then in turn puts somebody else's, an incident for somebody else to be a little bit of danger. And the next one is we have a lot of lines down, and we're going to have some more strong winds. I just ask people, if there's water on the roadway or lines laying down, please don't drive through the water and drive over power lines. That PUD guys could give you horrendous stories about what happens to people, and I've seen a few of them that have gone across lines or come in contact, and it doesn't end well.
And if you do come across lines or they're across your car, stay in your
Right.
car. Don't step out. Those rubber tires really protect you.
Seeing from the high flood and high wind safeties from washed out, 6 inches of water enough to knock a person down. A foot will make you lose control of your vehicle, and 2 feet of water can sweep away even SUVs and trucks. So you never quite know. You may have driven over that road a million times in your life, but this one time situation may have changed.
Yes.
All right. Well, Sheriff Salisbury, Chief Deputy Sperling, good to see you guys.
Good
Thank
to
you
see
very much.
No show next week. We will not be here, so you guys
Okay.
have a wonderful holiday.
Oh,
Christmas.
that's right.
I was going to say, what's going on?
It's already Christmas Eve. a week
Oh, you're
from-
We're
kidding.
coming up
A week
quick.
from
Yes.
today.
Wow, it sneaks up quick.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having us on.
For
We
sure.
really appreciate
We
it. I
do
know
appreciate
a
you
lot of
guys.
people. I always ask you, how do you know how many people are listening? Well, I'll tell you, if one thing controversial is said or something doesn't like, well, I hear about it in the grocery
That's
store.
right.
So I know they're listening.
That's right. Good to see you guys.
Thanks
Merry
so much.
Christmas, happy
Merry Christmas
holidays.
to you.